as you can see from the slide, we're going to be talking about remote working with MS Teams, but not just the sort of basic uses of MS Teams. We want to talk about how to go from more of like a basic user to more of like a super user of MS Teams. So that is basically what we're going into today. So it's lovely to have all of you guys joining us. I really get something out of today's session. And as we go through, of course, at any point at all, if you do have any questions, go ask them in the chat. We will make sure to try and answer them for you. But if we can't, that's fine. If we can't answer them at that moment, at the end of the webinar, we have a question session where hopefully I'll be able to answer the majority of your questions. And also at the end as well, we are going to be having like a little bit of like a little feedback form that we'll put up for you. We would absolutely love if you could go ahead and fill out the feedback. It would really mean a lot. But aside from that as well, it just ensures that you're able to also get like a recap and a recording of today's session as well. So before we launch into all the awesome Teams stuff, we just want to tell you a little bit about who we actually are and what we actually do and why we're here. So Upskill Digital are a digital training, education and transformation agency. We provide tailored training programs for your workplace. We're passionate about helping companies and people stay competitive in the digital age. And of course, with the current situation, important now than ever. And we do this just by kind of empowering, your people to adapt as roles change, through the power of engaging, fun, practical sessions that let your team sort of navigate the full spectrum of digital tools. And just by making sure that people get hands-on, thereby shifting their mindsets to allow, to align with the digitally disruptive economic landscape where we can deliver. You can see from our, little slide that we've got that there's a little map on there, and that's because essentially we can deliver our sessions everywhere and anywhere. We have about 200 digital experts all over the globe. We can implement bespoke and experiences, run it in local languages or in English, of course. And basically our ethos is just that we want to upskill your business no matter where you are and no matter what's going on. Having said that, that's probably going to have to wait a little bit until we're no longer, in lockdown, isolation, and, we're taken off of time out. But up until then, we've still got these lovely virtual webinars for you guys to make sure that you're still upskilling yourself during this time. So I just realized as well, I didn't tell you guys my name. So I'm Jo. And I'm the one that's actually delivering the session for you. You are putting your questions and stuff like that in the chat. I've also got my lovely moderator, Lily, who's also there, trying to answer some of your questions and stuff for you as well. So the agenda for today. So we're going to be talking a little bit, just giving a bit of context as to why we're here today. So, speaking of the challenging times that we're currently facing at the moment, give you some remote working tips for peace of mind and productivity. But of course, the main meat and bones of why we're here is we're going to look at the features of MS Teams and what it can actually do for you. A common misconception is that it's like a little messaging platform, and it's not. It's so much more than that. So we're going to be looking at some of those features. But then we're going to go into some full-on live that can actually be done in Teams. We like to think that with demos itself, that kind of shows a lot more and explains a lot better than words actually can. So hopefully when you actually see these things being used, see them being implemented, it'll make a lot more sense, and hopefully you'll be able to take something away that you'll be able to implement in your current day-to-day home working kind of sessions. So we'll look at the next steps to take if you do want to learn more after this. And then also we're going to end, like I said earlier, with a little question and answer session at the end, so that hopefully you leave this webinar today feeling like you've gained the information that you actually wanted to gain. So like I said, we're going to kind of speak a little bit about the challenging times that why exactly are Upskill offering these courses? Well, I'm sure we can all agree these are new circumstances for pretty much any business of any size, any employee really. Now more than ever before, it's kind of important to develop a growth mindset, and that means kind of going digital. Is essentially the future of work. The future of work is here. It's just that it's slightly ahead of schedule. This is probably not when we intended for things to kind of change this way, but It has changed. And, COVID-19 has kind of taken the world a bit by surprise. And, today as with digital transformation, the biggest challenge isn't only just like automation, but, a terrible virus impacting life as we know it. So, despite and everything, the future of work does look very promising, and our best days hopefully lie ahead of us. And I could just see that there's a message from Moira who's to the webinar. Great, thanks Moira. Hopefully you get everything out of this that you want to get out of it. So yeah, like we said, the current circumstances are a wake-up call to all of us. Things are changing a little bit, and we have to change with it. We have to keep up with it and stay relevant. It's highlighted how much potential we've left untouched is, in front of us all at this time. And, we've seen the world come together to really collaborate to win this fight that we're going through at the moment. And MS Teams is all about collaboration. That's the whole point of it. And because this is the future of work, we don't want to just be able to use tools. We want to be comfortable using them. We want to be good at using them. So, so that we can really get the most out of it and tailor it to our own individual workflows. Like I said, I know some of us have already been working from home for a little while now, and maybe a great chunk of that work has already been on MS Teams. But I know that there probably are some people who maybe feel like they've just about maybe scraped the surface and just about learned what they need to know to get by. And hopefully with this, we want to just show you some extra stuff that you can do. Hopefully that means like, you're getting a little bit more out of it. It's feeling a little bit more tailored for you as a generic tool that you're just kind of being forced to use against your will, basically. So yeah. Before we do that though, we do want to kind of give you 9 tips for working remotely. And this can be applied to, working remotely with Teams or even without Teams. It's just, I find it useful to not just be able to kind of get through this time, but to actually like thrive in this time. Like I said, we don't want to just get by. We actually want to do kind of well in this situation. So here are that are, many of them are straightforward. Some of them may not be, but the first one you can see there is, your workspace. You want to find a space in your home where you can concentrate, somewhere with few, if any, background distractions. I know that that's like easier said than done in this situation where maybe some of you have children or loud neighbors, whatever it may be. But any space that you're able to kind of set aside for yourself to get your work done, sometimes that just kind of helps you get into work mode. And one thing I do love is that when this whole thing kind of started, I think there was like this trending hashtag thing where people would say like hashtag my desk and just showing what it's like and these great spaces that they had put aside for themselves. And I think there was somebody else who went on LinkedIn and he was like, seeing everyone's desk is great, but you know what, I just want to shout out everybody who's having to use the dining table right now and just take a little section of dining table and just put their books out or wherever it is and gets their work done there because they might not have the desk or whatever to get it done. And that sometimes is the case. Whatever little space you can segregate for yourself, we say that that's always a great thing to do to get your work done. Of course, regular communication, your remote work rhythm might be a bit different from that of the office right now. Maybe you're balancing work and like I said, with, childcare or something else. Whatever's different, communicate it to your co-workers to let them know when you're most reachable as well. But of course, during boundaries, remote work sometimes means the loss of routines like commuting and whatever else, which kind of makes it a bit harder to transition to and from work, so that kind of work mode. So you want to make sure that you are taking regular breaks, that you're staying hydrated, that you're having more of like a clocking in and a clocking out kind of, a bit of a mindset in your brain, just so that you're not really overdoing it, which is the complete opposite of what my husband's doing right now. He's basically working till 3 a.m., which he never did before. So I don't know how he's doing more now than before, but yeah, try not to overdo it. But of course, effective is so important as well. Remember all meetings have to include like a virtual join option so that the team members can join from wherever they're working from. You want to position your device so that you're visible via video to enable face-to-face interaction and just to feel a little bit more connected as well. And then we've got, remote work means losing total context, you know, seeing facial expressions, or body language, or just sensing intentions. A lot of the kind of things that we rely on quite a bit and didn't realize. So remember to be mindful of your tone when you are writing, and that can be, you know, on MS Teams or whatever else. So you do want to be mindful of that. And on conference calls, you want to pause frequently to ensure overall alignment and understanding as well. But of course, recording meetings can be extremely useful as well. Sorry, I just want to pause that because I've just seen a comment that says, I use the ironing table as a stand table to work. Use whatever you've got. Ironing table, it can be your marble top ironing table. If it has to be the floor, then it has to be the floor. Whatever side, whatever you can set aside to get your work done, then get it done. So that's what you call innovation, using the ironing table right there. But yeah, also recording the meetings. Like I said, this can be really, really useful. You know, not everybody's able to jump on a meeting time, especially with so much stuff going on at home. So, you know, it is useful for, you know, if that facility is available, to just record that meeting and watch it later, which you can do in MS Teams, and I will be going through that as well later on. I don't want you to think I've forgotten that, you know, MS Teams is the main reason that we're doing this, but MS Teams does allow for that capability as well, which is always useful for, you know, many people. But like at the office, so remote working can feel a bit people, and it is important to create opportunities for the whole team to get together virtually, whether it's like, you know, large brainstorms on Microsoft Whiteboard or daily check-ins over a virtual coffee. Whatever you can do to kind of help everyone kind of feel included in this kind of situation and to kind of remember everyone is always really useful. But of course, togetherness, you know, use collaborative chat platforms to encourage fun activities or challenges to maintain, you know, photo contests or praising employees for creative ideas are great ways to help the team stay positive and engaged, and energized as well during this time. But finally, you want to still have fun. You know, quick lift chats, you know, by the coffee machine are not really possible. My quick lift chats were a bit longer than quick. They were more like 30 minutes chats, but we won't get into that. So be deliberate in connecting. Make sure you're still reaching out to each other, you know, your colleagues and everything like that. You know, treat impromptu chat messages as your virtual coffee machine conversations, and just check in with colleagues regularly. So these are just a few, you know, little tips and stuff to help you get started in effective remote working, or to improve your current remote working situation. There are other more inductions as well that Upskill do. So like I said, make sure to check those out, and I will be pointing those out if you do want to know where to find those as well. Okay, so let's get started. Actually, before we do, just to make sure everyone is able to actually use the chat platform and everything, is it possible for you guys to actually just mention in the chat currently what your level is with? So you can put in that you've never used it before, you're just starting now, you can do, you know, basics only, daily use, advanced, or expert level. So any of those at all that you feel maybe kind of, you know, accurate your status with MS Teams. If you just go ahead and drop it in the chat, it's just kind of a good way for me to kind of gauge where you guys are, and what it is and how I might need to tailor stuff for you. But also as well, like I said, it just kind of gets everything and stuff as well. So feel free to put it in there. And while you do, I'll just say that with, you know, like maybe a lot of you guys, I was not forced into using MS Teams, but essentially I was kind of forced. It wasn't in a work capacity, more of a study capacity. But I had no choice but to become acquainted with it quite quickly. And so I know that this can be maybe a little bit daunting for some people, where they have to go to working completely on MS Teams. Maybe you've never seen it before, never touched it before. And yeah, that's understandable. But yeah, if there's anyone who has used it before and maybe you are at a certain level as well, feel free during this time as well to also drop your own tips and tricks in the chat. You know, it's not just to kind of, you know, hear what I have to say, but it's always good to kind of hear what each other has to say as well. Okay, and I could just see a couple of the stuff as well. So Maria's level only, I use chat and upload docs as well. Okay, nice, fair enough. So like I said, everyone's going to be at different sort of, it's because I don't think there's really levels to it. But yeah, everyone uses it differently. And maybe you might find that for you that's sufficient using chat and using docs, but then, you know, I feel like you wouldn't really be on this if that was sufficient. You kind of want to know a little bit more, which is why you're here. I can see that Liz has said that you're at an intermediate kind of stage, which is good, and Fiona has said that she's new to Teams but able to run meetings, save files, and link to stream as well. Nice. Okay, so you've had a bit more use out of it as well. And just so you guys know as well, every time you do see me look to the side, it's just because or anything like that that you guys might be making. So yeah, so I can see that we're all at like differing levels and stuff, which is fine. You know, like I said, we need to be using it the exact same way. And I can see, sorry, as well, that Karen has used it for meetings, but it's not the easiest of platforms to work out. And that was you, Karen. Yeah, no, it can be a bit all over the place. Like I said, I was forced into using it initially, and I don't think I really even understood it for the first month that I was using it. And then over time, you kind of become a little bit more familiar. But I wish I had kind of been a bit more proactive, like you are actually, Karen, and actually sort out a webinar to try and become a bit more familiar. I'm one of those people that I would just kind of like struggle along and complain the entire time as I'm struggling until I like cried and prayed and made sacrifices or whatever until finally I have like figured it out. So well done for actually like jumping onto a webinar and trying to figure it out and not just struggle through like I did. But yeah. Okay, so with this here, you know, since the early kind of days of the internet, which I might remember, but you know, I remember the little BT dial-up connection and everything like that. You know, the number of people using online messaging applications has grown exponentially, and Microsoft Teams is trending now because it has managed to create a collaborative productivity app that doesn't just, you know, that doesn't compromise the user experience. Teams kind of like offers an unmatched level of integration, which is, you know, kind of the bread and butter of it. And it integrates completely with the entire Office 365 suite. So if that is something that you use all the time at work, then you'll find it quite seamless for you to use it on this as well. But it also includes many of the best kind of like third-party productivity apps and tools as well, which I'll be going into a little bit. And I feel like that's where you really get the use out of Teams. It's not just like your standard kind of office stuff, like your docs and your, you know, PowerPoint and stuff, but also being able to use some of the applications outside of that maybe you use all the time with work as well. So being able to get the most out of that. But finally, the main reason so many companies are choosing to kind of is simply because it's got industry grade security as well, you know, which is really, really important. You know, data security is a very, very important thing. Right, I say right now, but it's always been quite important, but maybe more so now, you know, things like GDPR and everything else, you know, anything that kind of utilizes, whether it's personal information or anything else, you want to know that it's in a secure kind of location. You want to know that it's quite safe to be able to put stuff on there. And Teams is able to offer that, which is why a lot of people end up choosing it. And it's that last aspect that kind of eliminates the need for that, you know, elevator pitch to your IT department on security and why you need to use it and everything like that. So yeah, it is a very, very useful tool to use. But like I said earlier, MS Teams just messaging. It does a lot more in terms of like, you know, meetings and video recordings and captions and transcripts and integrating other apps and inline translation. And some of this stuff might make absolutely no sense to you right now, and that's fine. Because like I said, I'm going to demo it for you later. But some of you may have you found that it is quite useful. What I would hope that you found it useful anyway. But that's you know, that's the difference between kind of being more of like a basic user of Teams and then being more of like a super user of Teams, is kind of discovering all these extra features that just make it so much more fun. And just so much more like cohesive when you are actually going through your day-to-day kind of work. Is you don't want to have to keep going from this application to this application to this application. MS Teams has so much within it that you're able to do a lot of it just through there. And like I said, as you can see from this slide, you know, you can do other things as well. Creating a team, you know, obviously MS Teams, creating a team, which is one of the kind of big things about it, is the way it allows for this kind of maybe more structure and organization, as well as this kind of I don't want to say separation, but essentially out different maybe departments within your organization or different sub departments within that as well. And you'll see what I mean as I go through later on. But it just allows for a little bit more of organization as well. And calendar, which I mentioned earlier, which is how you kind of access your mention just there, and file storage as well, being able to store things on there as well, and even add additional storage. If you use something like Google Drive or Dropbox or something, you can even add that in as well. So that always makes it useful. But aside from those, like I've mentioned 1,000 times, is these third-party apps, and I've put a couple of them on there, you know, that you can use, but it's by no means an exhaustive list. So things like Trello and GitHub and MindMeister is just a couple of the things that you can do. There are so many more that you can actually utilize. So in a moment, I'm going to start going through this live demo so that you can really see how Teams works, because I do feel like with stuff like this, like I said earlier, it's better if you can actually see it than someone just telling you, oh, it can do this and it can do that. It's more useful if you can actually see it doing those things. Just to let you know what you can expect from the demo itself. So you're going to see me create a team. You're going to see how to populate it, how to manage the team members, add a channel to that team as well. And that includes things like adding guests. So depending, I don't know what capacity you're all using, feel free to pop that in the chat if you want to as well. Whether maybe you are using this as for running your own business, or if you're using this as an employee, as part of another business, if you are an essential worker in different places, if you're part of the NHS, whatever it is, feel free to just mention how it is you're using it as well. But to find it sometimes, depending on where you do work, maybe sometimes occasionally you have to add someone else outside of your organization to your team, or to a specific channel, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you what the different permissions are as well. So whenever you do create a team or a channel or anything like permission, I'll show you what that is and what that means as well. We'll go through some of the essential chat features as well. So, you know, being able to mark a message as important, you know, bookmarking it for later, inline translation, which is one of my favorites as well. So being able to completely understand Spanish just because of MS Teams. But yeah, we will demo as well how to use your calendar, create meetings, and, you know, the beauty of MS Teams scheduling assistant as well. But finally, as well, you know, we'll show you how to add some of these third-party apps to your team as well. So I'm going to go ahead and demo for you guys. So here I am in MS Teams. So this is what mine looks like at the moment. You can see, you know, I was having a little bit of a chat with Donatas here. But you can see along your side menu here, you've got a few different things. You've got your activity, you've got Teams, you've got calendar, you've got calls, files, you've got the ellipsis here, the 3 dots where you can add some apps like I was talking about earlier. And you've also got apps down here as well again, and help as well. So I'm just going to start from the chat bit. Activity isn't really much. It's just showing any recent activity that's gone on this bit here. As you can see, you know, clearly no one likes me enough and no one's messaged me enough or anything, so I don't have any activity going on, but that's where the activity would be. So any recent posts or announcements or anything like that. So I'm in this chat now with Donatas, and you can already see he's already typing something as well. But one thing I do want to do is, assuming I had an urgent job for Donatas to do, or just something I needed him to answer for me really, really quickly. Now, some of you may have already noticed this, maybe not, but I could say, I can't even type anymore. I need you to take a look at the, I don't even know what I needed to take a look at. I need you to take a look at the file I sent yesterday. So maybe I've sent Donatas a file yesterday and he hasn't had a look at it because for some reason he's not doing what he's supposed to do. And so I need to send him a message. Down here, you can see where you've got this little exclamation symbol where you can actually mark it as important or urgent. So with important, the message will be marked as important, so he'll just see it as marked as important. But if I really want to harass Donatas into do as urgent so that the recipient is notified every 2 minutes for the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to make sure that he sees this and he has to respond. And I'm going to go ahead and send that. Boom. So that's done, but I can see like, oops, I've just missed a message that Donatas has already sent to me. So he sent me a message. Now, this might be something that some of you face if maybe where you work is actually quite international and there are quite a few of you guys working, in different countries. If that's the case, then you might find this useful where you can have a look at this message, not understand a word of it, click on the three dots right next to it, and you can actually say translate. And what that will do is it will just completely translate it for you into English. So it says, hello, now you can speak in Spanish, which is wonderful. So I can go ahead and just respond, yes, I can. Brilliant. Now that's done, and if I wanted to, I could go ahead and translate that back to Spanish, but I won't. I'm going to leave it in English just so you can see how that works. So another thing I just wanted to point out to some of you who may not have noticed it before, but within sort of every conversation that you have with someone, you've got this tab here that's to chat. But you've also got this tab here that says files. Now, this might be useful for some of you guys if maybe like me, you're used to having like loads and loads of convos with loads, you're constantly sending files back and forth. And when you do send a file, so if I were to send one to Donatas now, or he were to send one to me, it would show up in this chat. Find a file that he sent me a few months ago, and I don't want to scroll all the way up to find this. I can literally just click on files here. I will see the file that he sent me back in March, and I will be able to open it right up in Teams, which I'm going to do in a moment. I'm not going to do it yet, but just to show you what that actually works like. So now that we've done that, the next thing I do want to show you, I'm just going to work my way down here, and I'm going to go to Donatas. Hopefully he's been able to, he's gone and turned that off now, so he's not getting harassed all the time, but there you go. We've got our section here that says Team. Once again, this might be pretty obvious considering it's called Microsoft Teams, but of course, this is kind of considered a huge chunk of it. So the fact that you're able to just create some teams on here, so it could be loads of different teams that you can have, and it can be done by your department. Worked in a hospital, and the Microsoft Teams platform was just for that one hospital that you worked in. You could have it done by department, so a team for the cardiology department, a team for the dental department, and whatever else. Or you could do it differently if you wanted to as well. You can completely choose how you wanted to do this. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and create my own team. I'm just going down here to where it says join or create a team. And it gives me two options. I'm going to go for this one where you can create team. Later on, you'll see where it says team with a code as well. That's an option. But I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to say build a team from scratch. And in this case, I want to make it private. So with a public one can join, but maybe this one is more of an elite team. I only want a couple of people in it. So I'm going to give it a name, call it Health Department. And I'm going to say this team is for consultations, maybe, and discussing patient needs. So maybe this is why we would want it to be private. Because with this one, maybe we are going to be sharing some info that's some info that's quite private. It's secure information. It's not something that you want just anybody to have access to. It's quite sensitive. That was the word I was looking for. And so that is why we would want it to be a private team. I'm going to go ahead and create it. And then this bit does take a few seconds. But what it does is, that was nice and quick actually. But usually it gives you the option as well to carry on doing other stuff while it's creating the team. So you don't have to just sit there and wait if it does take a little bit longer. Right, so maybe I want to add Donatas to this group. So I'm going to click on him and I'm going to say add. Brilliant. And then I can actually choose if I want Donatas to be an owner of this team, so an owner with me, or if I just want Donatas to be a member. So for now, I'm going to leave Donatas as a member and I'm going to close that. So now we have our additional team along the side here, okay? And you can see down here, you've got something that says general. Created by default, a channel is also created with it. So if you imagine a bit of a hierarchy system where you've got like your whole organization, and within that you've got a few teams, and within each of those teams you've got a few channels. So one of those channels is called general. Now within general, you've got this bit here where it's just posts. So you could just type up messages and just say, hi everyone. And it just pops it right here. And everyone who's in the team, which is a bit of a sad little team right now because it's just me and Don, but everyone who's in the team would be able to see those messages right there. However, if maybe everyone was, posting messages in here and it was becoming a little bit crazy, there's a message going on when people posting cat gifs or whatever else, and somebody else is asking what somebody else wants for lunch. And what you need to do is you need to put an announcement in there to the entire channel. And you want to make sure that everyone knows that they need to look at symbol there and start typing the name of the channel and then type your message. So make sure you all attend today's meeting. That's just a little way of just adding a little, I call it basically a little push to just say, guys, you need to make sure you read this message, as opposed to just typing the message out and it could just get lost in the whole fray of different messages that are being sent at that time. You can also at specific people. So I can go ahead and send a specific message to Donates if I wanted to, but I won't for now. It's just to kind of show you that that facility does exist. But maybe I don't want to post this in the general channel. Maybe now I need to actually speak about something. Rather than putting it in the general channel, what I might do is I might go here to these three dots and then I'm just going to say add channel. And then I'm going to say something like patient reports, something like that. Okay. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It's just what came to mind. So we're going with a bit of a health theme here. But yeah, it can be patient reports. Once again, I can put in a description in there if I want to, but for now, I won't. And then once again, you can set what the privacy status is for this one as well. And once again, if I wanted to, I can make it private, and so it would only be accessible to a specific group of people within that team. So it's very different from, you could have a private team within that are also private. And so only some members of that team can see those channels as well. Okay, so it's almost like an added layer of security as well, because maybe it's not everybody from that private department that needs to see this information. Maybe this is more of a need to know basis. And so yeah, you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, for now I won't, but that's just how you can see. Actually, no, I will. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's just add it. And then in a moment, you should see it just pop up as an extra one there. So I've got patient reports, which is great. And within each of these channels, you can see that you've got things like posts, which, like I said, is just those messages, files once again as well. So any files that were posted and everything as well. Over the course of time that this channel has existed, you should be able to find in a list down here. And I will be showing you how to add more to this list later on as well. But one thing I do want to show you first is with this health department team that we've got, I'm going to click on these three dots. And what I want to do is I want to manage the team, okay? And here is where I can now see the team is. So that's me, Upskill Digital. But I can also see who my members and guests are, okay? So I can see that I've got Donates there, and I can see that his status or his role is of a member. Now, what I can do as well, if I wanted to, if I just go, well, here, where it just shows your channels as well, just to let you know, here's another place where you can add a channel apart from over here. But if I go settings and I go to member permissions, here is where you can actually decide, if you are the owner of the team, what your members can do. Okay, so if you want to limit what it is that they can do, here is where you would uncheck some of these boxes. So if you don't want them to be able to allow members, if you don't want them to be able to create and update channels, untick it. If you don't want them to be able to add apps and things like that, untick it. Okay, and that goes for your guests as well, which I'll be showing you in a moment what that means by guests as well. But less options for what you can restrict, because guests are already quite restricted anyway in what they can actually do. But that just is there as well as an option. And I mentioned earlier as well, when you're creating a team, that you can do it by creating a team from scratch, or you can join a team with a code. And this is where you would generate a code if you wanted to send the code to someone and they could just join your team via a code. Okay, so if I go back to members over here, when I say add a member, I can start typing the name of somebody. So notice as I'm typing, it's saying we couldn't find any matches, right? But then the moment I've done this, It's now found this person, and automatically it's now said to me, add this person as a guest rather than done for anybody else. And the reason why is it's already detected that this person with this extension of this address is not part of this organization. So because this person is not part of this organization, they will be given guest status. If I wanted to add them, and then they would be given guest status for this. And yes, you'd be able to kind of limit, like I said, in the settings, what it is that guests can actually do and what it is they can actually access. So hopefully that's all making sense. So feel free to post some of your questions. So I'm just going to look at some of the questions that you've already posted as well, where it says, how do you delete yourself from a team you are no longer participating in? So this one's a bit interesting because technically, sometimes the owner of the team can actually make it so you can't really actually leave depending on the security status. So it's almost like they've kind of like trapped you in there, but you can actually leave as well. And I'll show you in a moment actually how you would be able to remove yourself from a team. So I will come to that tomorrow. So just to let you know that I've not forgotten it. And I can see another question as well about meetings. And in a moment when we get to meetings, I'll see if I can answer that for you as well, Fiona. Okay, so assuming I am now happy with this team and I am happy with the channels that I've got in there and everything as well, maybe the next thing I want to do is set up a meeting with the people that I've got in my channel or in my team. So I would go over here to this little calendar bit. Actually, there's two ways you can do it. Probably the easiest way is to just go over to your calendar and you can say new meeting over here. And here is where you just populate it with your details. So the name of the meeting. So once again, we're just going to go with patient reports. Put in the people that you need to attend. So I'm going to say Donatus has to attend. Brilliant. I'm going to go with today at 30 minutes is fine. And then maybe I want to add a whole channel. So down here, I can actually choose a team, that channel. So maybe I'm going to go for this whole channel that I've got called patient reports. Everyone who has access to this channel is who I want to attend this meeting. And I'll go ahead and add the location. For now I won't. And then in here you're going to go ahead and type in any details that they might need to know for this meeting. So if it is a physical local address or something like that, if there are some documents you need them to read beforehand, go ahead and pop it in there. Now, another thing that you can do, I don't know if you've noticed here where it's got this suggested bit here, where it suggests sometimes that might be optimum. What it's actually using is this thing here called Scheduling Assistant, which I absolutely love. Now, you might not see the beauty of Scheduling Assistant just because, like I said, right now in this, it's only me and Donatus, which is a little bit sad. But if it was like this really huge meeting, you've got about 30 different people that you need to attend, you've got 40 people that you need to attend, everybody's got different commitment, have conflicting things in their schedules and their planners and their diaries or whatever else. What it will do is it will actually look at their Outlook calendar, and Scheduling Assistant will actually suggest to you the best time for this meeting to take place, where the most amount of people are able to actually attend it, if that makes sense. But it might look for a spot where everybody's free, and it might say, I'm going to suggest 2 p.m. for this meeting because that's when everybody's free. That's great. Obviously, not everybody's free at the same time. And so if you've got 1 or 2 people that maybe aren't able to attend, it will still suggest the best time. It just might be that it doesn't work for everybody because there's conflictions everywhere. But it will still suggest the best time to you. Okay, so now let's say I've done that. I've chosen my time and I'm happy. I will go ahead and that out. Brilliant. So we've got that booked in for later. One thing that I do find useful sometimes is if maybe you want to opinion about something and maybe you don't think it requires a whole meeting, but it also needs a little bit more than just a standard message. What you could do is click on this option that says Meet Now, and it will be just you. So if I click on this and I'm going to say Join Now, and what it will do is it's essentially creating a meeting with just me on my lonesome, so quite sad, but it's gone ahead and pops me in this meeting. And what I can do is I'm going to use its facility where it says more action. So we've got these, go ahead and click on recording. So whenever you are in a meeting with anyone, you can actually just start recording, and that, anyone else who's in that, the meeting is now being recorded. A couple things you can do. I'm going to turn on live captions first. They're not perfect, but they try. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start recording for literally just a second or two, just so you can see how that works. And red, and you can see there's a warning. You are recording this meeting. Make sure that you let everyone know that they are being recorded. And everyone should get this warning as well. So let's say I've said everything that I want to say. Maybe I needed to share my screen as well briefly, and so that I can show them a picture of we'll show them a picture of an X-ray, and I'm pointing something out on the X-ray that I need their opinion on. And I finished. I'm going to go ahead and I'm now going to stop this recording. So I'm now. Give me a second. I'm going to stop the recording. And I'm going to say, yep, stop the recording. Brilliant. So I'm all done with that. I'm still in the meeting, but there's nothing else I need to say. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up. And once I come out, I'm going to dismiss this for now. You can see that where you've had that meeting, so in your chats, usually, you'll be able to see an option where it will now drop that in there for you. But if you've had a meeting with an entire panel or something like that, what it does is it will actually go and drop this link. I will show you. If I go to Teams and I go to Health Department and I go to this channel, Patient Reports. So assuming the meeting was at my channel, the recording of it will show up in this bit where it says posts, and it will just be in there. But because the one that I just had now was by myself, it's just come straight into the chats bit here, and then it's gone ahead and started saving it in there. So once that's available, I will be able to click on that and I'll be able to actually view recording for that meeting. And because I switched on captions and stuff as well, if I wanted to as well, I can actually view the transcript for that meeting. So that might actually be useful for maybe people who are maybe more hearing impaired or anything like that, or just need the actual transcript because they need to copy and paste some of what was said in the meeting and post it somewhere or include it in a file or a document or something like that. Then it can be really useful to access that transcript. So while it's actually saving this, because see, until it saves it, I can't show you that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you this beauty right here, which is your apps section. So I know I mentioned quite a few times earlier that kind of the beauty of MS Teams was in this ability to just add on some of these extra apps. I do really want to show you what that actually is. So I'm going to look for a different one. So I've clicked on these three dots and I'm going to type in Trello. So I know a lot of places use Trello, and maybe they want to, incorporate it into MS Teams so they don't constantly have to go back and forth between MS Teams and using Trello and using whatever else. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add it. And then now, if you have never connected to it before on MS Teams, what it might do is it might briefly take you over to your browser, log in to your Trello account, and then it will give you like a little code. And then with that code, you can come back over to MS Teams and enter the code, and it will let you use Trello. So in this case, let's say you don't really know now you've got Trello included, you don't really know how to use it within MS Teams. Well, the good thing is it comes up initially with this little pop-up that says, well, what can I do? I'm going to click on that and you can actually see you've got a few different commands that you can type in there. So I can say, add a new card. So if anyone who's not familiar with, I won't go too much into it, but Trello is basically like a project planning kind of system. It just allows you to just create like little lists, to-do lists and things like that, and adds little items to those lists, basically. Very simplified, that's what it does. And if I wanted to add another item to that list, which they call a card, I can go ahead and add a card. So I can say add attend MS Teams webinar. So I'm going to say that. Trello is typing. Congrats, you created a card called Attend MS Teams Webinar in the list to do. Okay, and that's just basically how you'd be able to easily just kind of add some cards in there. You can do other stuff like remove cards, and you can see here as well, if I wanted to add some things to that specific card, I was assign it to someone, I can still do all of that within MS Teams. I don't have to come out and go over to Trello and then come back. I can easily just do that all within MS Teams. That in itself is quite useful. But aside from this is just one way that you can use like another app. There's also a way that you can incorporate an app or software, And in that form, we actually call it a connector. So you're actually using it as a connector as opposed to just an app. The way that you can do that is if I go back to one of our channels. So let's go to patient reports here. At the top here, I want to, if there's a specific software that I know that everybody within this patient reports channel, I know that we use very, very frequently. What I can do is I can go to add a tab, I can search it out, and I'm looking for MindMeister. Brilliant, we've got MindMeister here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna click on it, and I'm gonna say add. And once again, if you've not signed in before or anything like that, it will take you to go and sign in to MindMeister. In my case, I'm signed in, so I'm good to go. And I'm gonna call it MindMeister, why not? And then here I'm gonna create a new map. So I'm gonna say save. Once again, I'm not going to go too deep into what MindMeister is, but you'll be able to see in a second what MindMeister actually does anyway. And then what I can do is I can actually use within MS Teams without having to once again jump back and forth between several different applications. So just making my life easier, basically. So now I've got it still within MS Teams, and I can go ahead and use it for what I want to use it for. And the brilliance of this is that because it's still within this channel, other people are able to use this as well. So the other people in this channel are able to use this as well. So if I wanted to, I can create this one. Once again, let's go for patient reports tab. Go ahead and add whatever I need to add to this as well. So patient reports, medications or whatever. I cannot spell apparently. I promise you I usually can. Medications, appointments, whatever else I need to add. And then, yeah, other people would be able to contribute to it as well. If we were project planning, then this would be useful as well to go ahead and plan our projects together. So when you are adding it up here as one of these tabs in a channel, it's actually a connector as opposed to like just an app that you're using or anything like that. But you still have the option along the side here, like I did earlier, of adding other apps like Trello and other things that are more common, PowerPoint, and as you can see here, OneNote and Planner, and all these things that are already Microsoft apps that integrate quite well as well. Okay, so I know I'm running out of time here, so there's one last thing that I do want to show you, and then we're just going to quickly jump into our Q&A so I can answer some of your questions as well. I wanted to show you is actually if I go back into MindMeister, just to let you know that while you are using something like MindMeister, if I wanted to, as I'm doing this, I can still send messages and stuff to people without moving around too much. I can just go right up here to this search bar, and I can say and I can really start typing his name, and it already shows up, and I can say, hey, just working on that map. Brilliant. And it will send that to him while I'm actually still working on what I'm working on. So I accidentally pressed the key on my keyboard and it took me out now. But it would actually just send the message to Donatas while I'm actually still working on that map within the actual team section. Okay, and you can actually here as well in the search to go ahead and type in other commands. So you can see some of them here, but if I want to, I can type in / and then it shows you so many options that you've got here, but I can, and that will do set my status to be right back. There we go. If I wanted to /DND, it sets my status to do not disturb. So many other things that you can do. And actually, if you're using a like a PC or a laptop kind of PC, then what you could do is you could say Control-1, and what that will do is it will take you to the first tab that you've got here. Control-2 just takes you straight into the second one. Control-3 to fourth. On a Mac, it would be Command-1, Command-2, Command-3, etc. And there's just so many other shortcuts and stuff as well that you can use with those. And for a list of all of those, you can go ahead and Google them and you'd get a nice little list. But like I said, some of them, just by typing in like the first little character, it will show you loads of different options. And so, I know I've spent quite a bit of time. One thing that I didn't show you, which you can see on here as well, is one thing that as well is the ability to add different kinds of backgrounds, which is looking quite promising from this so far. But at the moment, I believe you can blur your, still implementing it, where you can blur your background so that if you do have a whole bunch of stuff going on behind you, you can go ahead and blur it so that, you know, you're not incriminating any further. And this is just some of the other courses and stuff that we do offer apart from the one that we've just done today. But before I go through that, let me just go to some of the questions that you guys have asked. So if I go through, like I said, sorry guys, I'm just looking over here to see your questions that you've asked. Captioning, an additional cost per month or included within the 365 subscription? It's included. So if you already have meetings and stuff enabled with Microsoft Teams, you will be able to also do live captioning as well. It is still in the beta phase, so it might not be perfect. And I think it is at the moment on like US English rather than UK English. So sometimes it will make little mistakes, but it does work, and you will still be able to utilize it just fine. And then I can see once I've set up a meeting, I might want to add a new invitee. When I add their name, it seems to send the update to everyone. Can the invite just be sent to the new invitee? Huh. The only thing I could probably think of, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about now actually. So it's when you go in here, you've created everything, you've sent it off to that person, and then you come back to it later. So if I go back to that calendar, so you come back to that thing later, and then maybe you decide to add someone else to it, it sends that notification out to everybody. I think from what I remember it's actually a default, and I don't think there's a way to change that. If there is, the only way that you'd be able to do that, if I go up here, if we go to our settings just up here, boom, notifications, meetings are meetings. Yeah, so it doesn't allow you to alter that one, unfortunately. I'm sorry, I think it does just send it out to, unfortunately. So one of those kind of like little annoying things that we probably have to just deal with. And like I see here, for recording and create a meeting with yourself to record it, or just press record. No, you don't have to create a meeting with yourself. So if you're already in a meeting with your whole department or whoever else, whoever's just in that meeting, once you're in that meeting, you can go ahead and record. So any meeting that happens with MS Teams can be recorded. It doesn't have to be a meeting at all. And then what was the other one? So how do you delete yourself from a team that you are no longer participating in? That was the question that you had before. Now, like I said, with some of them, unfortunately, you're not able to. It just won't give you the option if that person, if the owner of that team hasn't allowed for it. Sometimes they have to be the one to actually remove you. However, if I go into manage team, actually, let me go for the one that I created, 3 dots here, and go for manage team. Actually, in this case, you can already see you've got the leave the team here, but like I was saying, the only reason I'm kind of saying, oh, you could just go ahead and click on leave the team here is because, like I said, in some cases you might not be able to. It might only be the owner, and if it is the owner, if they have set it so that you can't team by going into those permissions, then you would have to tell them. They would have to go into it through here and then manage team, and then go to where the members are, and then they would remove you as a member down here by taking you off here. But if it is one that you have the option of leaving, then yes, you will be able to just click on these 3 dots here, the team. So you just go to where you've got all your teams listed, and you will just go ahead and remove yourself. I think that is it for the questions. Yes, that is it for the questions. I know that was very, very rapid. It was very, very quick fire. It was just because I was trying to get a lot of information in there for you. And I was trying to obviously cater to the fact that I know everyone's at different kind of levels, different paces. But like I said, there are so many other courses that we do with our virtual academy, and you can get 50% off as well. So make sure you do check those out. And you can see the other ones that we've got are the, once again, remote working with Microsoft Teams, which maybe doesn't go as much to the level that I did today, but it is obviously still a good one as well if you do want to go over some of the basics, along with Office 365 and team collaboration with remote design thinking as well. But if you could also fill out our feedback link, we would really, really, really appreciate it. Like I said, obviously it's useful for us as well, just to know if there's anything else that would have been beneficial for you, but also it just allows you as well to get access to some of the stuff after this webinar is finished as well. So like your recap and everything like that you might find useful by filling in the form. But I hope you all found it useful. I hope you all found it interesting. I hope that you're able to go forward and try some of this stuff out on your own as well after this is over. We do still have like a minute if you do. add, ask one more question or anything like that. Oh, thanks, Moira. I can see that you said that you got some useful tips and that you're thankful. I'm glad you got some useful tips from it. I know that obviously with Teams, like I said, there's just so much to it and there's so much that you can do. And a huge chunk of that not only comes from the stuff that you saw in this, but comes from those additional apps that you can add in there. So I would encourage you to, in terms of becoming like a super user of Teams, a lot of that will come from kind of adding stuff and playing about with it and doing what you've done today, which is joining a webinar and hopefully getting some useful information from it. But I hope that you're able to go forward. Like I said, go on here, check out these different panels that you've got at the side, play around with it, and hopefully you will find it useful. Some other ones here that are saying thank you. You are welcome. Thank you for actually joining the session today. Thank you for actually participating and for getting involved and for asking questions as well. We do really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we will see you in another webinar as well. So yeah, at this point, stuff to do. You are free to go forth and live your lives again. You have been released. You are now free. But yeah, enjoy the rest of yours as well. I will just hang on in case there's any other questions or anything like that. Let's see. Just making sure I haven't missed any questions. Don't think I have. Brilliant.